Recorded live in March 2026. Features and workflows may have been updated since this session. For the latest information, check the KB article linked in the description or connect with your Proofpoint account team.
The other main use case that we see for SOC analysts within our tooling is around user-reported messages. So this could be a submission through the abuse mailbox, or it could be a selection of our report suspicious button in an email warning tag or the button in the mail client. And we know that this is sometimes a high volume submission source for analysts to conduct a review of messages that we've analyzed and deemed a manual review message. Now, the review process on these is similar in that we certainly want to understand the current status of the message, as well as take those response actions. But because these are deemed manual review and essentially suspected benign messages, what you're really leveraging in this case is scrutinizing the message context itself, because we haven't condemned this as a threat, and you are reviewing it as a human analyst. So if we think about the message status and the different features that facilitate this in the TAP example, it's going to be very similar in the abuse mailbox example. The dynamic tagging is going to be a little bit different. The timeline is going to have different entries. But at the end of the day, those features are going to speed and simplify the process of understanding what occurred with that message before you received an alert or notification alerting you to the need to review it. So where I want to start is within that message context, and we'll take a look at some of those features and functions that support you as you look to understand the message itself. But first, let's take a look at how you're going to get into Threat Protection Workbench, specifically targeting these manual review submissions. So hopefully this notification is familiar to a lot of you here. This is sent from our Cloud Threat Response platform, alerting the analyst that a message requires manual review. So it's fallen into that manual review bucket, and it's informing the analyst that they need to take a look. In this example, I'm working off of the email notification. So I could either grab the subject, which if it's unique enough, you could leverage that, or you could copy out the message identifier, which is the message ID. If you are going to select a message ID, just note that those are defanged. So what we do is we put brackets around both periods and @ symbols. So if you are leveraging the message ID, just make sure that you remove those data elements before inputting that into global message search. One of the really exciting things with Threat Protection Workbench and abuse mailbox submissions is we now have a dedicated view that presents all of your end user submissions within Threat Protection Workbench. You'll select this folder icon on the left-hand side with the question mark, and you'll be brought to the view of all those submissions, along with our analysis of the message and the current status of the message. Now, whichever way you choose to get into the user-reported message, whether it's grabbing that data element and running it through global message search, or selecting a message off of the abuse mailbox view, you're going to be brought into a very similar message details view to what we saw for our TAP example, with a few key differences. So if we look at the dynamic tagging in the upper left, we'll notice that this is identified with our disposition. So yet again, we're trying to present you with the real-time status of the message. We know that one of the most important elements of that status in a clear review is understanding the disposition of the message. Within the message timeline view, you will see different data elements for this as well. So because this was reported by a user, we will see the submission from the user, the analysis process within Cloud Threat Response, and then ultimately notifications being sent out to the user to let them know that the message is being reviewed. So the dynamic labeling and the message timeline still assist you in understanding quickly and easily what the status of the message is, but it's tailored to the specific type of message that we have, in this case, a user-reported submission. One of the other really interesting things with user-reported messages that's new within Threat Protection Workbench is we will include in the Email Insights panel a reporter insight, or reporter confidence, if you will. So you can see that in my lab system, I report a lot of junk and just messages that are benign. So Threat Protection Workbench is doing a good job of identifying that I am not a very confident reporter. I tend to report a lot and I don't often report threats. What you'll see in your submission activity is users that do commonly report threats that you can be a bit more confident in their submissions, though they will be flagged differently in the Email Insights panel, giving you just one additional signal that you can use in your evaluation of the message. One other element that's extremely helpful on these manual review messages is that message screenshot that we talked about. So this is a way for you to quickly and easily see what the user saw prior to hitting that button or sending the message to the abuse mailbox, and make your own determination on, am I concerned with this message, or are there elements of concern that I can see here? So it can be used in either the tap case or the clear case. I would argue maybe a little bit helpful in the clear case where we don't have as much in terms of the threat condemnation and additional detail. Another important area when understanding that message context for user reported messages are the message headers. So by going into the message analysis in the headers view, you can select this view source option and be able to see the comprehensive headers that we saw on the message and conduct additional evaluation or analysis of those to help inform your decision of where to act next. And then finally, in terms of understanding that message context, sender analysis and URLs and attachment are both helpful places that can help you understand both the sender profile for the message that was reported, in addition to the different URLs and attachments that we saw within that message, with a helpful feature being that you can open up URLs in isolation so you can securely and easily navigate to the site within your browser and see what the user would have been led to had they clicked on a link. So at this point, we understand the message status. We understand what has transpired so far, Proofpoint's analysis, and we understand the message context, having gone through the screenshots and the headers and all those great different elements within the Threat Protection Workbench view. So now it comes to response, and this is really closing the loop with the end user that reported the message, and then taking appropriate action based on your analysis. So one important thing to know about Threat Protection Workbench and user submissions in particular is they are supported by the automation workflows, specifically our manual workflows within Cloud Threat Response. So we'll look here in a second at some of the different data elements in the UI view for Threat Protection Workbench. So looking at the flip side of that, as you review this message within Threat Protection Workbench, we see those buttons that are driven by those workflows within Cloud Threat Response. So if I wanted to use the default mark as threat option, I can select that and it'll trigger that manual workflow for me. In this case, I have a custom workflow, the reviewed assessment malware workflow. So this is a workflow that I use when I've reviewed a message and my assessment is malware. It allows me to quarantine the message, reply back to the user, as well as take some additional custom action and add in some notes in my incident record within Cloud Threat Response. After I execute that workflow within Threat Protection Workbench, you'll notice that the tagging has changed. Yet again, these labels are dynamic. They are meant to make it easy to reference and easy to see what the current status of the message is. So the disposition has changed to malware to reflect my assessment of the message. And we see that the message was successfully removed from the mailbox. So anyone else coming in and taking a look at the message will see the current status and the action that I took, all noted within the integrated message timeline. So it helps for auditing purposes, helps for review. It also helps for more seamless communication within larger analyst teams as you're looking at previously worked messages. Another nice element of Threat Protection Workbench is the abuse mailbox view will dynamically update as well. So we saw within the message view that the disposition had updated to malware and the message was successfully removed. If Vivek was looking at the abuse mailbox view, he would also see that update to reflect the current status. One nice thing that you can do with this abuse mailbox view is filter on a disposition of manual review. Then as soon as anyone on the team changes the disposition from manual review, they'll be removed from the queue. So yet again, better communication and better visibility on the actions that you're taking. One other really helpful action that we see for user-reported messages is adding the sender to the block list. So yet again, something that we see leveraged quite a bit with tap alerts, but particularly for manual review messages that you have deemed a threat, after you execute that workflow, you can take the additional action to blocklist either that envelope sender or header from address and prevent future delivery of the threat. Now, one final feature that I find really helpful in the clear submission case, and we hear a lot of really good feedback from our users, is pivoting from the single message view into the larger context of Mailflow. So in this example, we have a single message that was submitted that we're looking at in the message details view. If I hover over my cursor to go over the envelope sender, I will get this little magnifying glass on the right-hand side. What that allows me to do is add that unique data element, in this case, the envelope sender address, to a message query builder that kind of builds in the bottom right of your screen. And the idea here is to give you the tools as the analyst to identify what other messages within Mailflow may have similar attributes. So let's say I wanted to look at this particular envelope sender and this particular subject line. I can easily hover over those attributes, click that magnifying glass, and add those to my query builder. Once the query is built, I can run that search, and it's going to open up in a new tab in my browser a global message search with exactly those attributes. So just a few clicks and I'm able to pivot from that single message view into the larger Mailflow context of other messages with those same attributes. So we see in this example that we had one message that was reported, but there's actually 5 other messages that have been unreported by the users that were sent via different message IDs. So by pivoting with Query Builder into the larger context of Mailflow, I'm able to understand that the threat wasn't isolated just to the user who reported the message, but the scope is a bit larger. Now, because Threat Protection Workbench is designed for response, I can easily go from this message search result and export those results back into Cloud Threat Response for automatic remediation. So I've taken a single message review or a manual review message, acted on that, and then mitigated 5 additional messages that users had not seen yet and had not been removed from mailboxes. So increasing the impact of your investigation and remediation of threats that your users are reporting. So what does this leave you with as the analyst? Really, it's more streamlined message investigation, bringing together the message status, dynamically updating and providing you with that full audit trail in the message timeline, a much more robust message context that includes things like message screenshots and URL screenshots, overlaid with the ability to take action, making you faster in your reviews and more efficient with removing messages or replying back to the user as needed. And this is something that I hear again and again from the customers that I work with. Customers love the features of Threat Protection Workbench, but what they love more is the time savings that they get by doing their investigations within this new tool. Now, I know old habits are hard to break. We're all used to logging into admin.proofpoint.com to get into Smart Search or have the top dashboard bookmarked. The next time you get a manual review notification from Cloud Threat Response, copy out that subject or the message ID, drop it into Global Message Search, or find it within the Abuse Mailbox view and see just how much faster your investigations and your review can be by looking at these messages within Threat Protection Workbench.